Untainted Podcast. This lady today, you know what? Let me stop rambling. Let her introduce herself. How are you?
Hi, Obi. How are you?
I know I'm super, man.
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Please introduce yourself to our community today.
Sure. So my name is Thuli Zikalala, and I do a lot of things. And the top of the list that people might expect is probably going to be the last thing that I'm going to say. So I can describe myself as a visionary. I'm passionate about leadership. I love life, you know. And then the thing that really is my profession, my vocation is I'm an interpreter. So I'm a SASL, South African Sign Language interpreter by qualification.
All right. I mean, if someone is listening to our podcast, if they do listen,
Sure.
what does interpreter actually do?
So an interpreter, you can think of it as a person who facilitates and bridges communication between two or more people who can't speak the same language. So if, because I'm a sign language interpreter, South African sign language interpreter, it has to be deaf people who communicate using sign language. And a person who is hearing, it could be, a person who speaks English or Vernac. So I have to bridge communication between the two. So I facilitate communication. I'm not part of the conversation. Think of me as a bridge. Think of me as a channel. Think of me as a vessel of just getting information from one angle to the next.
But this thing you didn't just learn it yourself. You went to school for this.
I did, and
Yeah.
that wasn't the plan here. So I went to WITS. That was back in 2008, and the plan was to be a clinical psychologist. So that was my major, and then the second major was SASL. So we call it SASL for short, South African Sign Language. And I found it fascinating, so I could have chosen anything, but I chose that because I didn't know what it was about. So I usually go for things that scare me, things that don't make sense. So I went for that, and I worked my way up from the bottom. So I didn't know anything about it. So you first have to learn the language. This is very important. You must be fluent in the language in order to be an interpreter, and then you must learn the skill of interpreting. So interpreting is not limited to SASL. So it can be whatever, German and French and Chivenda and Xhosa, all of those, whatever language. So I chose SASL, but you have to learn and be fluent in the language, and then, master the skill of interpreting. So it's the language and the skill.
Do you want to talk to us about sort of the accreditation aspect of it? Is it accredited?
That's fine.
Yeah.
So I am a qualified interpreter. The same way you can be a qualified lawyer, qualified teacher. So you go and you study and you get the degree. So I've got a degree in interpreting, South African Sign Language interpreting. So I've got a degree in the language, and then I did, a bit of extended studying with the actual skill. So the skill is important because there are techniques and there are strategies that you need to learn that they don't really teach you, on the ground. It's things that you have to apply, textbook-wise, and then you see it real life when you actually do the job that, okay, this is what I learned, in different settings. So with accreditation, accreditation is quite a hot topic in the industry. It's a very controversial, topic. So I'm one of 11 SSL accredited interpreters in the country.
In
And
the
there's
country?
so there's only 11. But this is the thing, so be careful. So there's a lot of interpreters with different languages, Portuguese, French, Xhosa. But for SASL, there's only 11. Okay, I'm one of 11. And here's the reason why. First of all, it's a difficult exam. Okay, you need 80%, sort of like, you need to have a very high mark to actually get past, I guess. And then people don't think that you need it, so especially if you started working already, so you're already making money, why should I go back and study this thing? Why should I take an exam if I've got clients? I've got clients, I'm booked. Why must I now go back and then, get the chances of me failing, and that's really going to kill my confidence in the whole industry. So the reason why I did it, and I'm going to speak for myself, is because I feel like with any profession, if you call yourself a professional, if you're going to go into cuisine, if you're a chef, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, go all the way, especially if you're going to serve, a minority group, go all the way. Don't just, take shortcuts because it's easier. So the clients are there, but that will also add into the credibility, the competency of, you being a professional. Also, I failed the first time I did my exam. So that's another thing that you don't give up, bruh. No, and this is the thing. But it's a very tough exam. Like, I really, really mean it. Because people get thrown off by the fact that it's hard, And I went for it. I tried it 2018. I failed. Went back again, and I did it, and I got it. So I felt like, because it's there's a very small number of people that have it. You really have to have high skills to get it. That's the perception. But if you understand, if you get mentorship, I got it through, guidance and mentorship and practicing and actually making a decision that, I'm actually going to do this. mentorship is also quite important. So with the SATI accreditation, mentorship is quite important because my mentors were the ones who actually identified, okay, I think you're ready for this, and they guide you through it. So mentorship is important because you don't see yourself in a specific way, so they see potential in you that you don't see. So I didn't know I was ready. It was when my mentor was like, okay, if you've got something, are you ready? This is what I see. I will help you. I will guide you. Don't be scared. Give it a shot, give it your best and go for it. So I failed the first time, and then again we go back. Why did you fail? So it's two aspects. So you need to sign. There's a video that plays, like someone speaking a speech, sort of like, and then you must interpret. So this is sign language. And then there's someone signing, a deaf person signing, you must voice it. So voicing is the hardest part out of the two. The voicing is the hardest. That's a lot of people, get it wrong. That's where I got it wrong. You get feedback and then you try again. But another thing we would see, the turnaround time is a year. So
you have to wait a whole year
and
for your
that's
result.
just, no. So when you get the results, you can't apply until next year. Yabo. So like the turnaround time is a year, which is also quite disheartening because if it's just one thing that I can work on and I can get it right in a month, I can't apply next month. I have to wait in a year when the window is open for applications. So applications are usually around September, October. The exam is in November. Then the results come out the following year, February. So, when that time came, also because of my personality, I'm very driven, I know what I want. That year, I planned my whole year around my accreditation. I thought I was going to get it, and I didn't get it. So when February came, the results came, I was, the achievement, the status that comes with being an accredited interpreter. Also, black, there's only 3 black. Out of the 11, there's only 3 black, that are accredited. I think I'm the youngest. I don't know, I'm maybe one of the young people that are there. So even that, I really would encourage and advocate people to go for it. It's a tough exam, but that shouldn't throw you off. If I can do it, bruh, I think like I'm a living example that if you're determined, something that is so out of reach, that's feared, that's not maybe designed for us, so that's not expected for black people to go and get it, you must get it through. But there are also a bit of controversial issues, with the whole SATI accreditation thing, is because if you're a passer and you don't pay, then you forfeit your membership. So is it about the money or is it about the skill? Yeah, but so people are two ways, and the industry is divided. So why should I get an accreditation if it's not a true reflection of my skill? The people in my community are happy with my interpreting, so why do I need a piece of paper, a certificate? But like this certificate, sort of like a stamp of approval that you are a really true professional. You went all the way. You didn't take a shortcut, and it's true dedication. Like it's your lifelong dedication of making this happen. So I'd really, really advocate for people to get accredited.
I mean, Thuli, this is a full business.
It is.
I mean, a person from outside, I might just be thinking, you interpret and that's it. But this is a full business.
It's a proper industry, yeah.
Do you want to talk about the industry of interpreting just a bit? Just to give us just a eye candy level of saying this is what the business is all about.
So the industry, sure, let me start at the grassroots. Now, how do you become an interpreter? And this also is very interesting because it changes with generations. So you get people now whose parents are deaf. My mother, my father is deaf. My mother or my father is deaf, or a cousin or an uncle, someone in the family is deaf. And me as a hearing person, I grew up knowing or exposed to the language. Okay, so we call these people a coda, child of a deaf adult. So it could be direct parents or someone in the family, and then that triggers your interest in the language, or you learn it just because you're in the area or you're with your family. You don't really have a choice. And people who know the language firsthand, it's their first language. They become interpreters because if your uncle is deaf and they need to go to the bank, Thuli knows this language, let's go to the bank. On a choice, it's family, yabo. A lot of the people that I know who are coders, they became interpreters not really by choice. It just was a situation. She has to go to the bank, she has to go to the hospital, she needs an interpreter. So you learn the language, but you also learn how to, in that situation, you have to strain and take up the role. So you have to divide yourself as the child, but you're also the interpreter in that situation. We're interpreting very sensitive information for this person that I love. So the motive is not necessarily passion in that case, or it develops, you learn to love it, but I don't necessarily think, honestly, that people who are coders naturally wanted to be interpreters. They probably grew into it, you know. So that was the old generation, the people that laid it down, the foundation, and we pay respect. You know, we recognize, shout out to those people. But then now there's a new wave of interpreters like us. You know, I mean, I just woke up, I decided as in psychology, yes, but interpreting as well. You know, I can do it. Why not? And I worked hard. You can work hard. You can wake up and decide, I want to be an interpreter, and it's up to you. No one has to, you know, make you feel guilty for knowing the language. You decide, like any profession, if you want to be an accountant or a doctor, you go and study it. So there's also a perception of people who are coders, you know, are probably better interpreters because they've got the first-hand experience with first-hand exposure, which is kind of cool. I think the only advantage is that they've got the deaf culture part of it. But the skill, I'm not so sure. You know, I really have my reservations about that. So that in its case sets a little bit of, you know, differences in terms of the industry. How did you become an interpreter? It's not just one way or one size fits all. People have different stories, you know. And then you also get people who take chances, you know. So they see, okay, this is a quick buck. A deaf person is here. I know a bit of sign language, the basics, you know. Let me be an interpreter. And this is a big misconception, because if you just know the basics of SASL, you can quickly become a professional interpreter and make money out of it. So you can imagine.
We've seen that. We've seen that.
I know.
I don't want to talk about it, but
No,
we've
you can
seen
if you
that.
want to. People still talk about it today, bro. I was there at the stadium on that day. Can you imagine?
Oh, that.
I'll never forget.
Oh,
Yazini. So, yes, and that's a big disservice to the community that we serve, you know, if you're going to do it for the wrong reasons, because there's an ethical code of ethics that you need to follow. There's like an ethical standard, a global ethical standard that everyone must follow. So, you know, confidentiality, your dress code, decisions that you make in the situation, you know, being impartial, so you don't share your own opinions and subjective views when you're interpreting, like you're in the role of interpreting. So whatever happens, you're just a conduit of information. Whatever, if people are angry or crying, you must bring that emotion out, and whatever is discussed in the room or in the meeting has to stay within the setting. You can't take it out, you know. So it's a lot of trust and ethical issues that need to be, you know, discussed. Even the money, the payments out of it, you know. Lots of things. So you can quickly identify a person who's not a professional based on, you know, maybe their story or how they got there or how they behave, which sort of like erases Tina, who works so hard, you know, to put a name for ourselves as professionals, then one or two people. And it's usually the bad apples that like destroy the whole packet of people who are really trying, laying it down, the foundation. We're trying to pass the baton over to the other people that are coming through. So that's very, very interesting. So one of the ways that you could do, you could volunteer. So you could also volunteer organizations, churches, and that's how you work your way up. Something that's also quite important is to be active in the deaf community, so get plugged in. So it's one thing to learn the language on a piece of paper or just learn the basics over the internet, but the people, that's how you learn a language, any language, you know. I don't think SASL is unique from learning a language, like, you know, from the people in the community. That's how you learn the language. You live with the people, and naturally that's the way you can become comfortable. You build trust as well, because if you're going to be my interpreter, I need to know that you understand who I am, my values, my, you know, what I do. So
I just want to take it.